Bank Certificate of Deposit. Ms. Morris.
Yes, so I have printed out for you a proposal. So if you recall, last November, we invested our LAVEC grant proceeds into a CD that yielded 3.4% interest. So we actually earned $294,785.17 in interest. And Justin McElfresh is here today. We've been working on the design phase of the project, and we're at least 12 months out from needing access to those funds because those funds are restricted just for the vocational school renovation portion of our project. So just in our conversations, I went back to Mr. Jim Peak, and he offered us another 12-month competitive rate of 5.10% that could generate, so let me back up. So the total amount now, the balance of the matured CD is $8,876,785.17. So if we invest it for another 12 months at 5.10%, we could generate an additional $452,762. So combine that, our total interest that we could generate is $747,501. So I wanted to put that on the working session just so that that CD matured on November 3rd, so we could get the interest, maximize our interest earnings. So.
All right, thank you.
Any questions on that? Okay, thank you.
I like
Hey, Larry. Okay, the next item is a review agenda for regular meeting. Do you need approval for it? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the United Community Bank Certificate of Deposit?
that. So moved.
Mr. Gatton made the motion. Mr. Clifton seconded. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. Okay, next item is review agenda for regular meeting.
Hey, good afternoon. So Monday night we will have recognitions. We felt it was suiting to have recognitions for our retirees from last year since it's Thanksgiving month. So Evan has talked to each one of them to have them come Monday night to be recognized for their retirement. I will have my superintendent report, and Tara the attendance report, our student achievement report. I've asked Sean Winders to go ahead. Although we've shared with you our state data from last spring, he wanted to give you an update of other things that have changed since then because they're still changing things. It's a process that changed throughout the year, but I wanted to share anything new that he could update you on. He will update you on Monday night about that. Site-based report, Unity Elementary is on deck to do their presentation for their students, so they'll be here. And then athletic report, since fall sports are pretty much over now, Mr. Tackett will be here to give a report on the fall sports. Then our other agenda items down through consent to number 6, those are standing agenda items. On number 6, this will be Monday night, will be the second reading for our policy 01.1 for student board representative. Number 7 would be the second reading for our general powers and duties of the board as far as applications for grants. Number 8 would be the second reading for the long-term substitute pay. And then number 9 and 10, 11, and 12, those are all part of our BGs for the high school HVAC, and then the vocational roof, and the owner agreement for the vocational renovation. So Amy will share a little bit more about that in a little bit. And then number 13, we have requests for a shortened school day for a student that is transferring from Uniontown to Sturgis. And then number 14, we have transportation handbook revision post-accident drug testing. And you have it's been uploaded, so I wanted to share with you a copy of what they want to change that to. So what they're wanting to do, they're proposing that their current handbook and transportation, basically when to test for post-accident, you have to have a drug screen after any kind of accident, which is important. But at some point, there's some things like if they hit a limb and there's no damage to the bus or anyone else involved, what they're having to do is stop, bring another driver out there, take that person for a drug screen. Sometimes it takes 2 weeks. It comes back, there's nothing, there's no positive test, but we're without a driver. And so those things that are minor like that, we wanted to change it. So Mr. Smith met with his transportation department So if you look on the front of this, it has when to test post-accident. This is our current transportation handbook. If you look on the back, the proposal that we would like to have on Monday night's agenda to approve, it says post-accident drug testing guidelines. If the driver of a Union County Board of Education owned vehicle is involved in an accident where any of the following events occur, the driver of the vehicle will be drug and or alcohol tested as soon as possible. These events are only applicable in incidents where $500 worth of damage to any property is incurred. This applies to property, labor, material parts, towing, or other monetary total values of $500 when any of these are combined. Where the driver is issued a citation and at fault of violating a driver regulation, any accident that includes bodily injury of self or others, this includes any accident in which a fatality occurs, and post-accident drug testing is at the discretion of the superintendent of his or her designee. And that part's on our current policy. So our handbook rather, this is the transportation handbook, not policy. So I wanted you to see that, and Evan has also uploaded that. So we have that on for Monday night, and basically it will help us keep drivers on the road, and when there's minor things like a limb hitting your bus or a mirror barely grazing something, we felt like it would be better and more efficient to change that in the handbook.
So it's only if like there's obstacle fatality, but I mean like if somebody's like injured, what you're saying is if
they're
it's more so injury to the students or the driver, not just the vehicle itself. Like
Right.
you didn't just run into something
Right.
like hit you.
Sure, anything that, if there's a student's hurt, driver's hurt, the damage to the vehicle, all of those would definitely constitute a drug screen. But if they're just driving and they turn down the alley and a limb hits it, that's how specific they were, and then they were like, stop. And I'm like, it's fine,
But
you
if
know.
they're involved in an incident with any other driver, they'll
Yes,
still be.
most definitely, you have to.
And all of them
This
will
is
be
just like-
reported directly to me, and then I will report directly to Ms. Shepherd, and we'll deem it necessary.
The only one
Without
I was
hitting a
thinking
deer
about
or something.
is
That has
if you
to
had a
be-
driver that is running off the road and gets, I mean, that's
Mhm.
gonna be under $500 because they're gonna have a tow truck pull them out, but if they run off the road and get stuck in a ditch.
Yeah.
That
would constitute a
that
drug.
was
Yeah,
constituted a
because
drug
that
test.
could
I
be,
was thinking
yeah, that's what I was gonna say,
Yeah.
yeah, that would,
It would have to be a really minor incident. so
Okay.
that's not-
Very,
That's all I was
very,
always-
very minor, like the
Right.
limb I mentioned. Because any other time, if a police is gonna come out to the scene, then they're gonna do a drug screen, no matter what.
Okay.
We always do that.
okay.
So just wanted to run that by, and it's discretion too, and I don't know of any where they haven't already called me anyway as a transportation director for Shane or me, but,
Okay.
I like being involved with all those, but some of those little bitty things, it's like, and we also can do a random drug screen at any time, so even
And
though we don't pull them off the
do
bus
do
right
that.
then, we could always do another one the next day if we wanted, so. So that's what that is, and it's uploaded for you too. And then, any questions on that? The next one is the facility use agreement, number 15, that's our Union County ABA facility use agreement that we use every year with them. And they'll provide their insurance carrier, proof to Mr. Smith for that. Number 16 is the MOU with Union County Sheriff's Office, and that's uploaded too, and this is the one that, it's the same type of MOU that the League of Cities uses, and I also sent the copy that we have with Morganfield Police to Jason. So Jason Thomas and Julie Wallace, the county attorney, has gone through the contract, and they worked with Mike Owsley, our attorney, and went back and forth to make sure that everything was included in there that Jason Thomas had requested as the sheriff. So it's all good, and I've looked through it, the attorneys looked through it, but it's also attached for you if you have any questions. And this is just for the remainder of this year.
Okay.
Those are yearly. This is the one that, we requested back in January. So this is yearly, so this will go through 23-24 school year. And then next July 1, we'll start another contract.
And Sheriff Thomas he changed that to where they're just providing an SRO at the high school, not at the middle school.
Right, this is
Right.
just high school only. And so that's there for you to review too, if you have any questions before Monday night.
The ABA lease, when does it come? Is it from after the meeting till March or?
Do you know the end date?
November to March. Yes, sir.
Yeah, which he was there, but when you get into the All-Stars, the situation down there last year,
Goes past March.
No, it was just, it turned into a struggle of probably power with the ABA director and hosting a tournament and not taking control of, you know, situations like that. Shane had to step in, and so
We can have more
We-
conversation.
we talked about that. I don't know when that time comes. I don't know about your residential, but when you start drawing in other counties and stuff, it gets kinda,
We call them law enforcement like that.
Really?
And we can have that conversation again with our ABA director that we work hand in hand with as far as our partnership. And they should be responsible to step up and take control of those situations. So we can have that conversation with,
sure, yeah, it just,
it never hurts to have that conversation.
there needs to be something, they need to know at the end of the day that
If they are responsible.
they're just renting the building,
facility.
they're not making decisions on what goes on inside that.
That's right. Right. Okay, any questions on that? Okay, if not, I want to turn, and Ms. Morris, do you have any other comments to make about the BGs from 19 to number 12?
So, I will talk about, number 9 and 10 together. So we have finished the, BG, the HVAC project over the main gym at the high school. So item number 9 is approval of BG5, and so what the BG5 does, it just compares the initial BG estimated costs to what we actually spent. So you'll see on that form, and as well as the funds utilized, in that project, we had $10,000 of contingency, and at the end of that project, we actually ended with contingency of $9,283.36. There were some permit and fee costs, but again, that's what your contingency is budgeted for within that BG. So with that residual value, we'll keep that in our restricted fund, and then next month we'll be addressing the board about fire panel needs. Brian Atkins is scheduled to be here at the working session, just to kind of kick off that project. And then item number 10 is approval of final payment on that BG to MCI, the contractor on that job, for release of retainage. And the amount of that is $20,743.50. So that will, those two items will close that project. And then item number 11, approval of final payment for BG 22-276. This is to Preferred on the vocational route. So the item is complete, and this is just the amount of retainage that exists on that project. Actually, I was holding the total amount, and you'll see that on what I've uploaded, was, well, if I can get my PDF to open. The total amount on that was $72,786.68. And because he had completed the job, we released everything but the cost of the wrestling mats. So the new mats are in, because if you recall, tar dropped on our mats. They were brand new. They have cured at John Arnold. So tomorrow, our wrestling, after morning wrestle-offs, they're going to swap the mats. Preferred's going to come take ownership of the old mats. And then he's going to pay us directly for the cost of the mats, just to keep it out of this project. Once I had that check in hand, and after the board approves this next Monday, then we'll pay him the balance on the job. So that's what that is. And the balance is $45,621.30. And then item number 12, approval of the owner-architect agreement for BD 23-171. This is our vocational renovation project. So Justin McElfresh is here today, after Ms. Teresa reviews our audit, to discuss kind of where we are, just update you on the design. But this is the owner-architect agreement with Sherman Carter Barnhart. So it just sets forth the terms of that agreement. So if y'all have any questions, just, and then just because I was out at conference last week, so all of these items are uploaded or will be uploaded soon to the portal. But my regular finance items probably won't be loaded until closer to the weekend. Okay.
Thank you, Amy.
Ready to go to general discussion? All right, general discussion.
Okay, we have 3 items on general discussion. The first thing is we need to have a volunteer board member for our calendar committee. So someone needs to volunteer to serve on the calendar committee. Then we will hear from Ms. Teresa Jones for our audit report, and then Justin McElfresh will give us an update on our architect, as the architect of our project, Layback project. So I think you're on there, Chad. I don't know if you want to continue or someone else wants to.
I think I did 2 years in a row. I'll pass the torch.
Calendar committee. You said pass the torch, okay. Okay, any volunteers?
I don't mind, sir. I think it's traditionally been a newer board member, so I don't mind to do that. Need somebody.
I was getting ready to nominate you, Greg.
Travis Gary nominated you, so thanks for stepping up.
I think I nominated you,
I
Chad.
Okay, I will let Miss Tara Hancock know that you are the board rep. Thank you, Greg. Okay, our next
Thank you all.
Our next item is audit report. Ms. Teresa Jones, I'll let you share. You have a copy of the audit in front of you.
Alright. Thank you. I just want to say, good afternoon, and thank you for, again, allowing my firm to perform your audit. Ms. Sheffer and Ms. Morris and I met a week or two ago, and we went through this in detail. We went through, we spent a good bit of time in through detail.
Sorry, I just want to make sure. Mr. Clifton, sorry, right before the meeting began, I emailed you a copy of the audit report. So I apologize not sending it earlier, but
You have it.
No problem. Yes, ma'am. I saw it just as we got started with the meeting. I have it on my
Okay.
phone here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, again, so Ms. Sheffer and Ms. Morris and I have gone through it in detail, and so what I plan to do is just hit some highlights, but if you have any questions, want me to expand on anything, or skip anything, just interrupt any time, and we can back up and discuss whatever you want to discuss. But the district continues to maintain a solid financial position, even through, through difficult times, because you are diligently managing, all staffing, you're managing instructional and support programs through cost containment and community involvement, and through use of grants that you have available to you, you are able to stay in a good financial condition, and in a good position. We'll talk about that condition here, as we go, but again, you are in a good financial position overall. And Ms. Morris, I can't speak enough for how helpful she is, and all of your staff. Everyone seems so conscientious. If we ask a question, they are right on it, wanting to get us answers, wanting to help. So we just truly appreciate all the cooperation, and that comes from, I've said this before, I think you have a good tone at the top. They know what is expected of them, because I think it is shown, from the top down. And so I do appreciate, the board and your commitment to good reporting, and so everyone just really does a good job. Like if we do find something, people get really bent out of shape, So that they're very, very concerned. And so we appreciate that. So, and again, you have a clean, unmodified opinion. Look on pages 1 and 2 is our independent auditor's report. On page 1, the second paragraph, it just says, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly, and it goes on for a whole other paragraph. But this means that you have a clean, unmodified opinion. Your financial statements are good, free of material misstatement, and that again is a reflection on your staff, on what an excellent job that they do, and I do appreciate that. So like I said, I'm just going to hit a few highlights, but Ms. Morris has prepared on pages 3 through 10 what's called the management discussion and analysis, and this is a really good, it's a good report. I encourage you to read it. It has a good summary of the statements and some comparisons of previous information, prior year's information. And so it just has a lot of good information talking about the district's financial condition. So Ms. Morris prepared that, and Ms. Shepherd, worked together on that, the management discussion and analysis. That's pages 3 through 10. But on page 11, you'll see what's called the statement of net position. This statement is a picture of the district as a whole. This is all the assets and all the liabilities of the district. When you're looking at your financial reports, I'm sure that Ms. Morris gives you monthly, it doesn't contain, it's not required to contain, nor should it. It doesn't contain all of the liabilities, like pension liabilities and OPEB and bonds. You don't see that all the time. But on this statement of net position, it has all the liabilities and all the assets, all your infrastructure, all your equipment, all your buses. So, and it has your government funds and your proprietary funds, food service funds. So when you see total at the bottom, for instance, total net position is $20,368,724. That's your total net position of the district at June 30, 23. This is all your assets less all of your liabilities. So you think, okay, that's 20 million in total net assets, 20,368,000. Sounds good, but if you look right above it, the total unrestricted assets, that means the net position that is available for current use. It's not restricted for some purpose. Your total unrestricted net position is $638,000. I'm rounding. But so your total unrestricted net position is $638,000 compared to your total net position of over 20 million. So you have, yes, there are some assets, but they are restricted. A big part of your assets at the end of this year is some funds that's for your vocational school project. As you're aware. So you may have some assets, but they are restricted. And if you even notice, under the governmental activities, your unrestricted is negative in the governmental. You have a positive net position for your business type activities. Business type being food service and your child care. So those are why you have an overall positive unrestricted net position. So I just kind of wanted to point that out. Yes, you may see, we have total assets. If you look, you have total assets of $47,637,000, but you have total liabilities of almost $30 million. And so, but that leaves you a total net position of $20 million. But again, so much of it is restricted for various things that the school does need, of course. But you can't use it for paying your teachers' salaries and buying curriculum. All right, so I just wanted to point out, that this is just everything for the district, everything added together. So let's go to page 13, and we'll just kind of focus on the general fund. So on page 13, on the general fund, you see that there is an unassigned fund balance of $5,722,000. It's kind of toward the bottom. So unassigned fund balance. This increased over prior year about $317,000. This unassigned general fund balance. And those of you that we've met before, I'm on for page 13.
Sorry, that's a page on.
Yeah, page 13. Sorry. I talked about that. You'd like to have, a good rule of thumb is to have at least 3 months worth of expenditures in your unassigned fund balance. Where you could cover 3 months worth of expenditures. So this $5,721,000 represents about 2.81 months. So almost 3 months. So I kind of like, I bring out how do we compare to last year or the year before. Last year, that number, like it's 2.81 this year. Last year, it was 2.94. The year before was 3.84. So that you have less and less in unrestricted or unassigned fund balance to cover your day-to-day operating expenses. So, some of your expenses are going up and maybe not as fast as your revenue's going up. And you have been getting, your revenue has gone up in some areas, but again, that revenue is restricted for certain purposes that you can't just use on, most of them can't be used on your day-to-day operating expenses. But you still have almost 3 months worth of expenditures covered in your unassigned fund balance. So, I mean, that is not bad, but the trend is it's gone down year after year. Past several years, it's been going down. But you can see, your general fund has total assets of $14,382,000. This is up from prior year. The biggest increase is due to the inter-fund balances. That's your largest increase there. But your accounts receivables up, but your total liabilities, if you look under general fund, your total liabilities are about $774,000. That's up $344,000 from the prior year. The prior year accounts payable, was only $59,000. This year it's $367,000. So again, your assets may be going up, but your liabilities are also going up. But that's just seems to be the way that it goes. Okay. So then we turn to page 15. This is kind of like an income statement of the district. Again, I was kind of look at the general fund because that's where most of the current income goes. But on page 15, you see general fund, you see total revenues, $25,208,000. How's that compare to last year? Well, last year was about $23 million. It's up maybe $2 million from the prior year. You think, okay, that sounds great. But of this $2 million increase, what is reflected in here too is on behalf income, where the state thankfully pays for part of the benefits that you have to provide to your employees. But of that, what the state has paid, I think 1.7 million, I believe, something like that. So what the state has paid, so that is in here recognized as income and expenses. So I say income is up 2.4 million, but a lot of it is something that you haven't seen, but it is a benefit, but yet it's reflected, it shows that your income is up, but it's just because your employee benefits are up that the state has to pay more. But your property tax revenue was down almost $300,000, but your interest, as Ms. Morris mentioned earlier, you are getting a better interest rate on some of so your interest income is up. But I just wanted to kind of point out when I compare things to last year, yes, it got a big increase, but there are reasons that are out of your control why those things are up. Then your expenses are up. Your total expenditures under the general fund is like $24,416,000. Last year that was $22 million. So your expenditures are up in the general fund about $2.4 million. But again, a big part of that is on behalf, the state has covered part of that. But again, but it's just natural that your expenses keep rising.
And also an unusual thing is that also includes the middle school flood expense.
Okay.
So even in accounts payable, we had I just pulled it up so we owed Martin Flooring $100,000 and KB Flooring
I thought she was
$100,000.
talking about restricted funding, versus, I thought this was unrestricted you were talking about, but that would be restricted funds, wouldn't it?
It would be unrestricted. We paid for it out of general fund.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, I mean, again, this is just a snapshot as of June 30th, but, so
Do we
some
have
of
a
the expenses.
receivable for some of that insurance proceeds? Or did you,
We had
even though the district still had to be out some?
that's right, at that point in time, yes. So our payables were up, but we did have a receivable, just I have to look at the timing of the insurance proceed receipts, but.
But yeah, no, you're correct, and normally, capital projects, those are restricted, but
Mhm.
because this was an
Insurance.
insurance, and this was included in the general fund.
But the
So-
primary driver are the on-behalf payments, both the
Mhm.
revenue and the expenditure piece, to the tune of about $1.7 million.
Wouldn't it be nice to have all this info before we levy our tax rates?
Right.
Well-
Always.
Well, and I just want to say, so, I was kind of waiting till the
No,
end.
go ahead.
When we looked at page 11 and you saw a decrease, just to kind of expand on what Teresa said, when you see a decrease in statement in that position. So when I present my financial reports, like Teresa commented, there are a lot of accounting entries that we only record at year end. So one thing that impacts page 11, that our unrestricted governmental, or unrestricted net position for governmental, our unrestricted, for our governmental funds did go down. However, on this page, we're required to record like, OPEB, it's other pension employer benefits and pension liability. So what that means in a nutshell is we take actuarial data, and if everyone out there who's retired is eligible to retire collected their benefits all at once, we have to record that expense. We have to record that liability For
Just in
both.
case.
for both the retirement portion, for the medical insurance benefit costs. So all of those are captured at year end. Also, another accounting entry, I mean, there are several that we only record at year end, are called compensated absences. So when someone retires, they receive a payout of 30% of their sick leave. Only at year end do I take a snapshot, okay, who at June 30 was over 55 years of age with 27 years of service, and what's 30% of their sick leave balance as of June 30th. So all that only gets captured on the June 30 financial statement. So I don't want you to be alarmed that this is a dreary picture. I mean, we still have a solid financial, but when you look at this and you see that decrease,
Yeah.
it's because there's those one-time year-end accounting standard entries that are booked, that
Yeah.
typically aren't
I think that's the
recorded
same
month to month.
for all state agencies, isn't it? That-
It's
As
accounting
far as the
standards.
comp, yeah, it's for the comp and also for the retirement piece of it.
Right, and it was an accounting standard that implemented 4 or 5 years ago to capture that liability, to make financial statements more comprehensive, inclusive of every liability that exists, but it just complicates and muddies your true financial picture, I think. But Teresa can, anyway, so I'm sorry to,
Oh, no.
but,
Well, thanks for the clarification.
right.
Yeah, and I didn't, that's a very complex thing that's being recorded, and I personally don't think it benefits any of the local reporting requirements, but you're required to put it on there. And that's why, again, like you said, it was kind of bleak looking, when we look
Right.
at that, but that's what we required.
Yeah, you can see just, if you look down the liability, again, our net pension liability just for the pension was 9.1 million, and our other pension employment benefits was 7.6 million in liabilities that we had to record. The typical we don't. And then on the same side of that, there are, up in the asset section, deferred outflows. And so all of that's calculated by an actuary, but we have almost $7 million of accounting entries we typically don't have, we're required to in our audit. So, anyway, just wanted to point that out.
Thanks, Amy.
Yeah, thank you. And so I think, we were on page 15, we were talking about the expenses, so, let's go to, okay, and you see on page 15, you have the general fund, and you have special revenue, and construction, and then your non-major, other non-majors. In special revenue, your income is up significantly, but that is because of the grant for the vocational school project. Your total income under special revenue is like 13.8 million. Last year, that was 4.8 million. So it's up $9 million, but that 9 million is the 9 million almost 9 million for the grant that you received for the vocational school project. So it's up, but again, that is restricted as well. So now let's go to page 17. 17 is where we're talking about the proprietary funds, or the proprietary funds being, food service and the child care. Both of these projects, both of these type of funds have a positive net position. And that's very good, very good. And they're required, they have to post the pension, the OPEB, as Ms. Morris was just describing, they have to record that. Like if you look under food service, you see net pension liability, almost $1.3 million. Net OPEB liability, $346,000. Food service still has a positive net position after recording, all of this. Food service has done an amazing job, and childcare has done an amazing job. Childcare is net, they have cash, childcare has a cash of $375,000. They have a net position of $384,000. I remember when this was continually in the red.
Right.
So this is just amazing for that.
Yeah, and just to expand on that, so if you recall when I do my financial statement, so Apple's, our child care program, is receiving ARP COVID stabilization federal funds. So we shifted all of the salary and benefits from this fund into the grant fund, but we're still collecting tuition and state assistance. So that's how we're building a healthy net position for our daycare fund. So when those funds dry up and we transition back to paying salary and benefits, we'll be able financially to sustain
Be in a
that
pretty stable position.
without raising the cost of Apple's childcare. So it's something I'm working with Mr. Jackson on, just monitoring that. So you'll see that balance climb, but eventually when we switch back, this fund probably, I don't know, we have another round that just came out. Hopefully we'll continue the rest of this year, but eventually we'll go back. Sorry.
Okay. So, and the food service cash is like $1.9 million. That's up $775,000 from the previous year. So they've been able to do some things in the food service to help with that program. But I mean, it's been doing very well in terms of food service.
And that's attributed to our community eligibility provision. I mean, not only do all our students eat free breakfast and lunch, but also it helps us, it's profitable. So Mr. Bosaw is able to replace all of his equipment. And one thing that we just had conversations about, once food service gets their equipment replaced, you can't ever move this fund and take this money and just move it into general fund because it's a federal program. So the revenue generated or the profit generated has to stay within this food service fund. However, when we get to a point where our equipment is in a good spot in our kitchens and they have all their needs met, we have competitive salary and benefits for our food service personnel, general fund, and what we've had conversation with Ms. Shepherd is can charge food service an indirect cost. So food service doesn't pay the cost of our accounts payable or our payroll. That's all absorbed by general fund. However, we process and pay bills for food service department. So general fund can charge an indirect cost for those services to the tune of right now, the percent is calculated by KDE based on cost data we submit annually, but it could be 15%. So eventually in the future, Mr. Bosaw's done a phenomenal job of writing equipment assistant grants. You'll see, sorry to take over, Teresa, but he maximizes, I just want to give him a plug because he works really hard and does a great job of running this program. He maximizes all donated commodities that are available to us. I just went to conference last week and you're sitting in a room with dozens of districts. It makes you so proud of how your colleagues run their departments, but they leave money on the table all the time. He gets it down to every dollar he can from but you see the impact here. So eventually general fund will be able to benefit from that when historically in the past it was in the red.
We've seen the impact from the equipment he's been able to purchase and so we build all that back up too.
Yeah, he's done a great job.
And there are other districts, around that are under the CEP program, but they're still losing money. They're still not able to, build up their fund. So again, Mr. Bosaw does an excellent job. And, you know, for both of those to have a positive net position.
And you see the good pictures, it's quality food. I mean, it's not just pinching dollars, it's fresh fruits and things for our students, so.
I don't know if you've been in the schools, but the fresh fruit and vegetable stands are so neat right now. The students can walk by and get vegetables or fruit off at any
I've
time.
seen them on social
And
media.
it is so neat to walk by and they're like, oh, where's the pears today? Where's, it's really, especially in elementary, they love it. It's wonderful.
And that was through one of the grants they
Yes.
applied for too.
Yes.
So both the programs did very well. Now, starting on page 20 are notes to the financial statements, notes and disclosures. These give additional information for some of the financial statement numbers, give you a lot of information. So if you're having trouble going to sleep at night, help yourself. But there's some budget, there's required supplementary information. And as part of our audit, we also have to look at areas of internal control over financial reporting. And so I told you had a clean opinion on your financial statements. But we did have one minor issue in internal control that we wanted to report. There's some categories, there's material weakness, and there's a significant deficiency. Material weakness, a significant deficiency isn't as severe as a material weakness, but it's something that we just wanted to bring to the attention of the district. So on page 74, just mention this briefly. We found something, it is not a significant, it is not a material weakness. But again, you see kind of in the second paragraph from the bottom, the last sentence, a significant deficiency is a deficiency or a combination of deficiencies in internal control that is less severe than a material weakness, yet important enough to merit attention by those charged with governance. So we had something that we found, and it was just a really isolated kind of loopy's not a word, but just something just really unusual that there wasn't a control in place to catch it. So because there wasn't a control in place, we just mentioned it as a deficiency. But again, it is not a material weakness, and corrections have already been made to the controls. It's already been taken care of. It wasn't a material amount, but it was just something that we have to look at internal controls, and this is just one thing that we found, and that is listed on page 70. On page 79 is the schedule of findings and question costs. And so there was no question cost because it wasn't material significant dollars. But at the bottom, there's just where we talk about the significant deficiency on the bottom of page 79 where it starts. And but it was just a minor thing, but we've got it listed there. And again, we had a recommendation and the views, we've got the views, and it's already been corrected. But
Yeah, just to give you some insight, so we have one classified employee who years ago was grandfathered in. She's a classified, but she is the only employee we have in the program for emergency non-certified substitute teachers. So way back in, prior to any of us, she received some training. I think it was 16 hours of professional development. And as a classified employee, she can sub and be paid as a certified substitute. So on our salary schedule, we actually have at the very bottom of our subschedule, non-certified emergency substitute. And so if we've noted it on page 80, instead of paying her at that emergency non-certified substitute daily rate of $71, she was paid at the rank 5, the step above that, as a certified substitute of $75 a day. And she worked one day last fiscal year, and it was a day selected for audit. But good thing it was brought to our attention just because she was grandfathered in, and she's the only employee we have paid at this daily rate of 71. So
I'm assuming she didn't even realize it either.
Mm.
It was $4.
Or you already know
We
what they
overpaid
said
her.
on it.
Well, we overpaid her a daily rate at $75 and she should have been paid at $71.
It seemed really petty, and I'm
But
sorry.
if it went, no,
But
but if
it
it
was
went
on-
on.
But if it
no.
would- but if
What
she-
is supposed to do?
Yeah, but if she had worked 100 days,
That could have been,
if she had worked 100 days or a full contract,
Yeah.
the purpose of this finance, we did not have a mechanism. We weren't even aware that she
Right,
was part of
so
this
if she had worked
program.
a lot of days, it wouldn't have just been like $28 or
Right,
$30.
Yes, right.
So now
right.
we have a control in place to correct that.
Correct that.
Mhm.
That's the main thing. That's what you want with the audit. If there's something
Yeah.
like that they
It
find.
could have, so it's something
Right.
that we, you know,
Yeah.
that has been corrected before something happens. you know.
Yes.
That's good.
Yeah, right.
And they were just right on it, and the second we found it, they was just like, oh, wait a minute, got everybody involved, and, what can we do, what needs to be done? But yes, it was not material, it seems petty, but it was just a control,
Yeah.
and it's already been taken care of.
But now we're aware of the program and we're aware of, how to we have that person set up uniquely in our Munis payroll system, so, it was opportunity for us to put in an internal control.
I'll say, I'm so glad I don't have to use Munis.
Yes,
Yes, it's fun.
yes.
And then the next report starts on page 81, 82, and this is our management letter points. And every year, we really have to, KDE wants us to look at the schools, their red book requirements. And so the schools, they really do a good job, all the secretaries and principals out there at each school location. But there's so many forms that they're required to use in different circumstances. So we just find some, maybe where they didn't use certain forms properly or to their best benefit or whatever. So that's just what that form is about. We have to list prior years. But overall, really, district does a good job. And I say this every year, again, it's from the top down. We appreciate that. Employees are conscientious and they want to be accurate. And as always, it's been a pleasure, our pleasure to work with you and your staff. If you ever have any questions or need anything, welcome to contact me. I really appreciate everyone's hard work, especially Miss Amy's. I really appreciate working with her. But if there are any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer them.
I want to say so the audit by law is due to KDE by November 15th. So I upload our electronic annual financial report to KDE, and then Ms. Teresa sends a copy of her report to KDE. So this has been submitted and met, the November 15th deadline. And then we're required to publish or make this available for the public. So we have to actually publish two things: our working budget and our annual financial report. So probably, I don't know about next week, but the following week, we'll be publishing and running that in the Sturgis News, and then I always post that on our website under the finance section, and I'll refer to that in our ad that we run in the Sturgis
Same as
News, that those
previous years.
documents are available. But then, Teresa hit across the district, our schools, from our school bookkeepers, is reflected the pride they take in their job. Sturgis and Morganfield had 0 issues during their audit. And the ones that, the comments contained are minor in nature, and it's just, a form that was improperly used or a form was missing. But they do a great job. But finance staff and district-wide, it's the culture. It begins with the board and the tone and Ms. Sheffer and expectations. But, audits are difficult to go through and can be stressful because you take pride in your job. And when Ms. Teresa says our staff get upset, they get upset. They take it home and lose sleep over things that are.
Oh, with me.
Where's Billy? You missed that.
I know
You're gonna-
that I'm scared of you.
It's like Mama and Daddy. They go.
You need to give me their names because I'm not scary. Now, I don't like to spend money, but I'm not scary.
No, I think it's you're so
Yeah.
responsible, that people
No.
respect it and they know and it makes them want to do right. So sometimes they're like,
Oh, I don't know. You tell me their names, I'll put them.
No, I'm just saying that.
I don't want to be scary.
I want names. I heard I want names.
I'm sorry.
But I want to, Teresa and her crew, it is a very thorough, diligent audit. And when we talk to surrounding districts, their auditors don't audit the level that Teresa takes to make sure she's confident in the data we're presenting in our financials. So, but my staff down, I mean, from Ms. Shepherd and everybody that works, even down to the schools, we're fortunate to have such a culture of, doing things, cognizant of that we're utilizing taxpayer dollars, both at the state level and the local level, and try to, assign them, be responsible to meet student needs.
So although Amy is scary, she is good to work with. So I just want to say thank you to Ms. Teresa again for coming in, and she is very particular, and she's a stellar auditor, so we appreciate that. And then Amy, very conscientious is the word I'll use, very conscientious, and they do get upset, so I appreciate Teresa and her patience with us, because when they come across anything, everybody's scrambling like, what happened, how did I do this, and what do we do? So the good thing is, I've told all of our employees, that's what auditors are here for. They should find any kind of control that we need to improve, and it's a continuous improvement journey, but we're in a good position, and we've never had any findings that were anything we should be concerned about. And I don't think anybody here would intentionally do anything like that, but it's nice to have the auditor here to make sure, because she and I can have those private conversations of, if we need to check a department, we can, but there's not been an issue in the last couple of years, so it's been great. When I first started, I can't say the same, but it's been wonderful the last 13 years working around auditors and with them. So blessed to have Amy, like I said, in her department, but every administrator here, they know, and like Lanya said, they're not going to want to go talk to Amy. So
Amy, I'm not
Miss
scared of you, but I do appreciate the job you do. You do a great job, really.
You really do.
she does a great
Ms.
job.
Kelly, we're going to talk about that wording.
It is what it is.
That's right.
Whatever came out of her mouth is what
That's what it is.
But it's also great. It's also great to have staff that are willing to take the responsibility and figure out how to correct it, because normally it's the name game. It wasn't me, it was such and such department fault, or it wasn't me, they forgot to do this. So to have staff to take responsibility and accountability to say, what can we do to correct it, instead of the blaming or excusing, that shows a lot too.
You're right, because they were all on it, and I think 3 different people came to me and said, I should have done this, and I was like, let's sit down and figure out where we can, put a good control in place. So it was fine. But I appreciate Teresa's patience, because they are,
Yeah, thank you for the job you guys do too. And
okay, Amy.
Well, if y'all have any questions as you review the audit, please, questions
She won't
over,
sleep
I might have to reflect on who I'm scared.
Thank you, Amy.
You can call me, I'm not scared.
But if you have any questions between now and Monday, let us know. But this is mainly just a report. It's not really something that has to be approved by the board, but we just want to report out to you, because we spend a lot of time with Teresa throughout the year, so we want you to have a final report of our financial statements. Okay, so if you don't have anything else, Ms. Teresa, we'll move on then to our architect update. I'd like to ask Mr. Justin McElfresh to come forward. He'll give us an update on our LAVEC project, and I'm not sure what all you brought, Justin, but I put these here in case we need them, or if I need to hold anything up, so you can kind of see where we are. This is exciting. So now, now that Ms. Teresa says we spend our money correctly, now we get to spend it, right?
Right. But we're all terrified of Amy, so we'll spend
Yes.
it cautiously.
Including Justin.
Come on, Justin, you're not scared.
I'm just playing. So the first packet of information you have there is information that we've been working closely with Amy and Ms. Sheffer and Mr. Jackson and their entire staff to update not only the vocational school, but the other pieces of the project that will be impacted by the renovations to the vocational building. So,
Justin, do you happen to have this electronically that we could send to,
We have a
Greg,
board
Yeah,
member
that's
that's
what
online.
We got
Teresa
one
said.
online.
I think
if you have it where you can just
You wanna
email
forward
it to,
it?
forward it to Amy or myself, and we can email it to him. I mean, Greg, you have hard copies here he's provided today in front of all of us, but we're seeing if we can get this email to you too, so you can see it.
Okay, thank you.
I think we've talked through it a lot before with you all, so you might be able to follow even without it, but I'd like for you to see the plans. These big ones? Okay.
I take pictures of
Make
it,
sure
and
you
send
got
it
those
straight to him if
attachments,
you
I
want.
just sent it to her.
Okay,
just
he
easier?
just,
Greg?
he just
It'll
emailed
be
I'm
me.
gonna
easier
take
to email
pictures of these and send them to you, okay?
Well, we got it now.
He got
I
it,
think
he
he
sent
just-
it.
He's got it.
Oh, he's got it, okay.
He's got it.
As soon as that comes through. I don't have it yet.
This is cool.
You want to do both? You scan it and do it?
Here it is.
Okay. It's coming through now to you, Greg.
I'll forward it to him.
And then there's a separate one I just sent you, that is the maintenance bill.
A visual.
No.
So,
This is
Mr.
what
Clifton,
it's
you'll receive two emails. One has, just the maintenance building attached. That's gonna be your second email, and then the first email should have all of their attachments.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So, one of the things that, we'll start with the site plan, and on, basically the backside of the building where the existing, vocational building is, you'll also see several other buildings that are impacted by the renovation that we're doing. And as we get into the plan, you'll see that our intention is to add additions to the backside of the building where the grades are easier and where we're not trying to deal in a tight space. Obviously, we just added the connector that connects to the high school. There's also a preschool playground in there. So the easiest way to add space to the building is to add on in the current parking lot on the backside of the building. In addition to that, we're also taking that opportunity to really help better organize the site circulation on the backside of the building. So instead of buses and cars and different vehicles that currently drive through the parking lot to access other things on the backside of the building, they will now be routed around that parking lot. And then we'll better utilize that backside parking lot for a new storage building for ag, as well as a new greenhouse, and then obviously the additions, which we'll get into in the plan in just a second. The other thing that you will probably notice on this site plan, originally we had looked at adding the multi-purpose building for sports down closer to the softball field and to the student parking area. After looking at some preliminary information that we've got regarding flood zones and floodplains and potential impacts there, as well as thinking through the safety and security of students and staff, we've actually looked at what we think is a better location that would be kind of up, back behind the existing football field, almost immediately adjacent to the vocational building. And we'll kind of talk through some of the reasons there.
Think about where the
So-
preschool parking is now, where the parking is beside the football locker room.
So,
Where
right
they
over,
practice field.
part of the old practice field.
No,
Yeah,
the practice-
basically just between the practice field
here.
and the football
Okay.
It'll be on
field.
this other
Okay,
side.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
then. Okay,
If you
yeah.
look at the end zone of the football field, go straight up the hill.
Okay.
Or if you walk out of the football locker room, straight ahead.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah,
Going toward the tree line.
okay.
It's this blue part right here,
Used to park there.
and the orange will be the tennis courts.
Mhm.
Any questions about the site plan there before we
No,
get
sir.
into some of the other information?
So like, can I say one more thing, Justin,
Sure.
on that? So on this site plan, if you look, our line of travel, like you said, will be back behind the vocational building and the greenhouse. And then this road will come down in front of the new multipurpose building here. Then you're gonna go on around. This will be a connecting road that goes around behind the softball concession stand that's already there. There's actually a road bed there, but it's grass. And then this would actually be accessible parking for softball too. So if we have handicap accessible parking, they can see softball on the hill and football on the visitor side there. And that way the flow of traffic will go on around instead of being congested behind it. And we looked at,
So that road come back out to the parking area down below?
down the blow,
Correct.
yes.
So
This-
it'll have a complete circle?
Yes.
That's good.
And so when we're looking down here too, we were concerned, we know there's been some work there on that, but with the flooding, when Justin, we were talking through, we'd have to build it up so much, it really would be better to have the road around here as gonna be a wash as far as how much money you're gonna spend instead of building up down by the softball field. And that gives us more space there later too.
That's a good point. Just with the new location, it just solves a number of other issues that we can try to improve as well as part of the project.
I just wanted to mention that road, sorry, Justin. 'cause
No, no problem
I
at
know
all.
we've talked about it a lot, but I don't know if we
Right.
mentioned that to them before.
The second sheet that you have there is basically the updated, overall building plan. And what you will see there is, originally you just saw a lot of, colored boxes, just identifying the appropriate amount of space for each program that we need to accommodate. Now we're getting into more of the minutia. We're getting into how those spaces are developed. We've been working closely with the staff and Mr. Jackson to make sure that each student needs in each one of those programs is gonna be met by the improvements that we're doing.
Yeah, that's nice actually having it dropped in, kind of what's gonna be in the rooms.
Yeah.
They were involved
It's
with
a
this,
good visual.
Yeah.
they and the coaches were involved with all of this design development.
So you can kind of see on the backside, the red box, which is civil engineering, has been extended into the parking lot on the back, as well as a portion of the computer science. So this kind of linear piece here, and then the red box are building additions. Everything else, with the exception of the stair, which I'll hit on in a moment, is dealing basically within the existing box that we have to deal with, and we're able to accommodate most of the needs there. In addition to the additions we're doing on the back side of the building, we're also proposing one on the far side, on the football field side of the building, and that is a new stair and a new elevator. One of the things is right now, the current lower level is only accessed from the outside, so this will help us to be able to not only get able-bodied students between floors safely without them having to go outside, but potentially also adding an elevator so that anybody that needs to access the lower level has full access there.
So that's a good benefit for any ADA people.
Absolutely. Yeah. So then on the lower level plan is actually some work that we've done here recently on the next page in coordination with the athletic director and some of the coaches, just really looking at how that space could be developed. Basically what you'll see at this lower level is really just kind of freshening everything up. We're reusing all the plumbing, except instead of just showers that aren't very efficient and aren't very nice, quite frankly, we're just gonna be adding walls and new finishes so that, they're divided for each student, and then the restrooms will be updated. But all of that work will basically be done in place, so that we're not spending a lot of money on infrastructure. We're really just improving what we have at that lower level.
So this is the old football locker room, so we're saying. And then if you look, the football locker room's on one end, the opposite end, you have a big room there for filming, for students to go watch film at the end of games. So that can be for basketball, football, wrestling, or whatever. So that's like a multi-purpose for all sports.
Then the next few sheets that you have in your packet this afternoon are really, again, just further development of each one of the pathways that we've done with the staff. The first one in green is the ag suite, the ag pathway. Obviously, there are 3 classrooms kind of within that suite. One is for plant science, a plant science classroom. On the upper side, you'll see an animal science classroom. And then the upper right-hand corner, you'll also see kind of a general ag classroom. In addition to the more traditional lab setting where they can do welding and things there. One of the things that we've done in modifying the plan and working through the overall plan with all of the staff is we really got back to kind of moving an ag class that was further down the hall, closer to all the other ag teachers and all the other ag students. And we've really kind of consolidated everything, reused all of their current space, but again, we're making it better, more efficient space. We're going to provide better access from the outside. All of this area will also open onto a back service yard that, again, we won't have vehicles driving through, so they can access the outdoor storage building as well as the outdoor greenhouse without having to go outside and, walking through a drive lane in that. So we plan for that area to be completely fenced, and again, as we look to, for safety and security improvements for our students and staff, that's part of that as well. So the next one is, the computer lab and computer classroom on the left-hand side, and then the right-hand side is the civil engineering suite. But again, all of these have been developed with close input from each one of these teachers and Mr. Jackson to really make sure that we're looking to not only meet their needs, but also the future needs as these spaces continue to evolve and adapt with the changes in education over time too. Then on the next page, in the yellow at the top of the page, you'll see the health suite, which basically we've accommodated 10 hospital beds. Many, I think all of the beds right now you currently have. So we'll be reutilizing a lot of the equipment, but we'll also be looking at ways that we can incorporate new equipment and really maximize the educational opportunities that are occurring in each one of these suites as well. And then finally, in the blue area there, you'll see the business space, which is basically is made up of 2 classrooms with a central kind of project area. And that was really neat to see develop. There are basically 3 instructors that share the business space, and they worked in close cooperation with one another to really think about, how can we utilize the classroom spaces, but then really create a kind of dynamic central space where kids can come together and do projects and do things that maybe they don't have the ability to do well now. So that should be a really, really neat space there. The next couple of pages that you'll see is one, the base bid of the multipurpose building. And we've broken this into kind of 2 pieces because obviously, just like our homes, we all have, in our households, we all have a budget that we need to work within. So the base bid is what we plan to bid as part of the overall project regardless. And then you'll also see an alternate plan that would also include some additional indoor practice space should the bids come in favorable and we have a little bit more wiggle room, so to speak. So in the base bid, you will see we have updated this based on conversations with a lot of the coaches and with the athletic director. On the left-hand side, you'll see boys and girls wrestling area in blue. You'll also see a coach's room kind of centrally located, as well as a study room that can be used not only by wrestling, but for all of the students that are out in the multipurpose building. In the kind of light purple, you'll see a nice sized cheer and dance space, again with another coach's room. All of the gray area is very important space because it's not only restrooms, but it's valuable space to store stuff. And especially when you look at some of these spaces where we're sharing spaces and we're trying to do multiple uses within those spaces, the more multi-use type space you have, the more vital it is that you have proper storage areas. So you'll see several storage areas located within the updated plan, as well as in red, you'll see weight training space that I think is about 500 or 600 square feet larger than what they currently have, which should be really nice. And then potentially, should we be fortunate enough to be able to include the practice area, but that would then open onto or look out onto a potential practice area there that you see in the overall plan for the multipurpose building.
And that's about 35 yards, right? Because people are
Correct.
asking about football.
Yep. And then we anticipate that space could potentially also have things like batting cages and just a number of other opportunities there too.
And we also had discussions, maybe a small concession stand if we were to have.
Just general storage up there, we talked about taking half that like a concession stand if we had this bigger spot. Because you could have archery competitions and things like that.
The other sheet that I handed out you won't actually see it on the site plan that I handed out, but obviously we also have a maintenance building that will be impacted by the building additions. And just in an effort to kind of clean up the back area there, the maintenance will be relocated over on the way to the bus garage. So it'll be sited over there. But we've also met with the maintenance staff and got their input, and this is the updated plan and where we're at there, with that plan as well.
I know, material costs have still been trending down. Have you got any new numbers on overall costs?
We are definitely seeing things starting to stabilize and kind of come down a little bit. I told Ms. Sheffer this last week, we're cautiously optimistic that things are trending in the right direction. But we're also gonna work with the construction manager to be sure that we're not painting too rosy of a picture, that we've got plenty of wiggle room. When we receive bids, we'll include alternates so that you guys have flexibility on bid day to make decisions based on actual hard numbers rather than just budget numbers, so.
That's what I'm after.
Any other questions?
When were they taking and starting the bid? When were the bids?
Yeah, so our plan is right now, so next month, we plan to come back to you guys and get formal, design development approval, which basically be a approval of a progress set of documents. We'll continue to work into the spring on construction documents and kind of fine tuning all of the, bid documents that we will distribute to contractors. We'll look at, wrapping all of that up. I think we currently have scheduled for the end of March, 1st of April. So our plan is to be able to bid it around April and be able to hit the ground running as early in late spring, early summer as possible so that we can start construction there. The first things that you'll probably see, and we'll work with the construction manager on the phasing, will be the maintenance building, because that building will have to come down, so we got to relocate them, as well as wrestling and some of the other things that are within the existing vocational building need to come out and be in their new home. So those would probably be a first phase, and then you'd see some activity within the vocational school walls.
So when you say first phase, we're gonna shoot for that being done simultaneously as far as the maintenance and the
Correct.
athletic facility.
So, this new location on the building, on the athletic building, that's a hillside there, so is the parking right in the lower area where there's already some parking to the weight room?
There will be parking in front of that. They'll take out some of that hill. It goes into the hill,
Yeah, I
right?
was wondering, that's
And
that's
we've
where I'm
tried,
going at.
Yeah,
we've
it'll
tried
be
to
remodeled.
push it back farther so that obviously we're not putting a building on the side of a hill, but there will be some cut and fill there. We'll create a flatter spot to put that building.
Because the tennis courts is back there too.
Yes.
If you notice on this, that,
Right.
this
Right.
piece
Yeah,
here,
I mean,
where you see the orange,
is that
that's the
part of the
tennis court.
practice football field where they see it?
No,
No,
they've
we're
measured
just
the
down
practice
on it
football.
there.
And see the tree line there? If we had to, we could cut into that some, but they've measured the practice football field and it still fits in that space as far as the specs of the football field.
So the parking that's going on with this, you go where the drive-in is, it where
Down the hill
people,
now.
you know, pay admission coming into football, the second gate down there in the lower lot. Is that the driveway you're talking about, or is there another one?
No, actually, that's two. There's one that goes on the track where like our,
Oh, okay, so
and
there's
then
another.
you know, the one that goes on the tracks like where our food vendors
Oh,
come.
okay, I see, right.
Then beside it, it goes up the softball field.
Yeah.
Concession stand that would go back behind the
So-
softball field.
That's gonna come down a hill to.
We'll probably have to cut that area, so.
And there's
Well, where's
already,
football players gonna run in, that's like the.
Oh, they can go back to the hill we used to.
they
run.
can be on the hill still.
I'm just thinking.
They'll still be on the hill. But yeah, there's actually two roads. There's a road now that comes up that little ramp that goes around the track where our food vendors come, but to the right of that, there's a road that goes up by softball. That's the road that'll be the road that comes all the way through.
Yeah, I mean, that ought to be a great location for it.
And that accessible parking up there would be nice.
One
We have
one
people
thing
now.
about the lower area, you had a large amount of parking that would.
That was the thing I hated to give up, but then when you look at how high we'd have to build that up, because we looked at that from the beginning of the project, that's gonna cost a lot. And then this is just safety and security. We can get more use out of this, be more of a multi-purpose building, having it up here.
You're more
because the safety-
contained too,
yeah,
because you're back.
it's safer, as far as safety, it's better there.
And we
Yeah.
could have, depending on if, I mean, we have opportunity for parking here, here, I mean,
Yeah, you
there's a
do.
lot of.
You
It's
do.
just hard to picture when you see it set up like it is right now, but there will be parking all the way around. Yep. And it gives them opportunities to have more competitions, you know, with having the facility out there.
Well, I've got in my head, and stuck into my head, is trying to generate how to make money with it, or to help pay for it. with financially with money, how can we host stuff, how can we do certain things that might be appealing to the addition part of the building?
Well, long-term, talking long-term, not this plan, but long-term, since you brought up, so we were talking about, if you had that extra, like plan A, plan B, if you had plan B, you had that space for archery, you could do some archery
Sure.
competitions and things. It also could open up for like wrestling or cheer, because they have it, Mr. Irvin worked with the architects too, where it could open either way, so if cheer wanted to flow over to the wrestling area, and they're not season, they could, and have other competitions here, and wrestling could too. But then also in the inside, what it helps us with, that frees up our gyms, because right now, everybody's competing for gym time. With girls, boys, basketball, JV, varsity, freshman, then you have cheer, dance, archery, so they're all competing for space. So if they have that space out there, that also opens up our gyms, where we can have more competitions, because now middle school has a new gym, we have the main gym at the high school. Long-term, Amy, don't listen, this is where I'm scared of Amy, long-term, there's the auxiliary gym that needs to be refurbished, needs to be remodeled, and if we had that gym like middle and high, we could have awesome basketball tournaments and competitions too, that would draw money in. So those are things we've talked about, if there's money left in contingency or something, we could look at that long down the road, once we get, but our priority right now is this multi-purpose building out there, because we want everything out of that vocational building, so we can use every penny of that layback money, because if we don't have that, if it's not just offering for our vocational, we can't use money in that space. So that's why we have to move maintenance, we have to move.
Yeah, so that'll move pretty quick once.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna take some time. It's probably gonna take, 2 full summers to completely put things back together.
Well, from the bid, from you opening it up for bid, how long will that be open, for a month or so, or,
Yeah,
the
so
bid,
typically
so
we're
the bid
bidding
in the
minimum
spring,
of
you're
3
looking-
weeks. So
Okay.
around a month, from the time we, get everything out to contractors, from by the time we get numbers back, is about a month-long process.
And I think one of the other things we talked about, we want it finished as soon as possible, but there is lead time issues that we've had with doors and glass windows and things before, but our
Well,
goal is to
contractors
get.
too, I mean, they're usually not sitting
Yeah.
home, not doing nothing.
Right,
I mean.
right, I know, I get 'em, I understand.
You know those main contractors are
You
too.
know how those roofers are right
Yeah,
now.
my phone's been vibrating the whole time.
But ultimately, we wanna get both the maintenance and, that multi-purpose building going simultaneously as soon as we can, because we have to displace people. And then the layback, we'll probably be right at a year after that. Shane says I'm optimistic, what he hoped to, but.
It's nice to have,
I think
everybody
it'll-
that was vested
Oh, but
to
that was my
have their
main thing.
input. I
I
really
wanna
like
make
that.
sure every teacher that's gonna be in that space, and then
That's right.
Justin and I also
They
had the
utilize it.
conversation of, yes, this is what they need right now, but let's look 21st century and beyond of, if they retired, what would a new person come in and want to?
Yeah, I'm
Because it
sitting
can't
there
be
seeing
just-
what our numbers look like and see what we can do when the time
Yeah.
comes.
There's been a lot of thought that's
So I
gone
think
into
we'd
it.
all
Can't
like to have the
tell.
whole thing built, it's just a matter if we can eventually make it happen.
Sure.
and be still
I
responsible.
got one, and this is just probably a waste of time question, but if the numbers are, I mean, back when we went through our, I don't know, our talks about it, I mean, it was, what was it? Our bonding, it was really putting us in,
Really.
in a tight
position.
position, and is there any, I was looking at this addition part, is that 17,000 square feet, is that what that addition part was?
Yeah, so the base, it's basically half and half, so it's a
Right.
total of 34 and change, but the base is 17,388, and then there's another
It's almost another
17,000.
half.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I just did, I didn't know if that, when those bids or when those numbers become real, if you downsize any like to 10,000 or 12,000 square foot, just to
Right.
give you that opportunity to say, you can't have the 17, but you can still get something out of it.
Right.
It may not be what you want, but we don't know what
Sure.
the numbers are gonna be. We may get them and be like, okay, that's
Right.
not gonna happen.
The one thing I will say is if you look at those, I don't expect the numbers to be, the base will be X and the addition will be 2X, because if you look at the addition is really just
It's just
wide
space,
open
yeah, a
space,
space.
Yeah.
with most of the plumbing
Yeah.
being in the base bit, so
And the reason they went to with the 35 yards, they wanted that half a football field to practice.
Yeah, no, that's,
Which is a good question, can we make that, because
well,
that's what we
if-
do
if
on
we're
all
in
these
a
plans.
pension like this week, there's no way we can afford it. In reality, I didn't know if we could go to the drawing board and say, hey, you might be able to swing 10,000
Yeah,
square feet. or-
so one of the things, we never like for this to happen, but if we do get in a pinch and we're close, but we can't quite get there, one of the things we have done is we can competitively negotiate or value engineer after the fact and kind of find a sweet spot there,
Okay.
so that we can try to proceed with something if we're not quite there.
And you'll work with our construction manager for that too,
Absolutely.
right?
It's exciting.
They'll work with the Lions.
Yeah, it's exciting, it's exciting.
And there are moving variables all the time, so right now, and depending on what legislators do, we may get a bump in the level of funding we get that helps out our bonding potential. I was talking to Dwight Salisbury, so that may help us out. We have interest earnings, costs have come down, we scaled back the maintenance building a lot, so those original numbers we looked at, I think might look somewhat different.
You know, bonds have been, the interest rates have been a little more favorable over the last couple of weeks. Hopefully that continues to, go in a favorable direction, so.
But what you asked, Chad, that's what we've done with these basic ones already. With the maintenance building, it was bigger, and we tried, like, what do we not,
Squeezing it down a
what do we
little
need
bit.
versus ones?
Yeah, cause it'd be nice to have one that had a whole football field.
I know, I get it.
Like 100-yard football
I
field.
get it, swimming pool, everything, I get it.
Like it's raining, just take it inside.
But we are gonna go down to Trigg County to look at theirs, because theirs is pretty comparable to what we are looking
Is
at.
it, yeah, I saw when that construction.
Square footage
going
was
up.
and everything, pretty close.
Are y'all
We wanna go-
involved in
Yeah, we
Trigg?
did that one.
So is it similar to?
It started out very similar. This one
Theirs
is
is a little
becoming a
bigger.
little different, but that's great. If you looked at, so they have more like the wrestling and I think cheer rooms are on the far end. So one of the things I expect from your all's plan is having your plumbing and everything more isolated in one area. It should be a more
Cut some costs.
economic plan. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, because they're
Just seeing
building,
that
when
space
you're
inside is
there,
nice.
it looks huge. I mean, when you're in Trigg, when you're down there by the high school, it's huge.
Bill Thorpe is a superintendent there, he said we're welcome anytime, so when Amy and I go,
34,000 square foot.
if any of you all wanna
building.
run, you can.
That's, I mean, when, you know, I saw them building it, I happened to be in Trigg about this time last year, and they were building that building, and I thought, good Lord, of course, I was nosing around. Like, why can't, where's our building at?
My building's about half that, and it seems like a huge building to me, so.
Yeah,
Right. It'll be
yeah, I
beautiful.
wouldn't mind to look at that sometime too myself, but I'm ever down that way or anything.
We'll let you know when we go, cause Justin said they could meet us there and show us like the difference over there too. Okay, well, thank you, Justin, we
Thank you,
appreciate
guys.
all your
Thank
help,
you.
and
Alright.
again, patience with us too, because we've
And
worked
Melvin,
through all our
Melvin,
staff
thank
and
you,
coaches,
guys.
it's been, thank you. It's been a lot of conversations, we appreciate it.
Thanks, Justin, I appreciate meeting with you.
Thank you, Justin.
All right. You guys got anything else? Well, hope everybody has a happy Thanksgiving.
Greg, you have anything else?
Greg, do you have anything? No?
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank
You
you.
too. All right, do you have a motion to
So
adjourn?
moved.
Mr. Gadd made the motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Hagan made the second, all in favor? Aye. All opposed, motion carried.